we are now doing the Gita Mananam of the second Adhyaya, that second chapter, and now we are in that last few shlokas of this. And so there is an important section which we will cover today, which is called as that stage of Stitaprajna. And but before that, let us look at where we were looking at yesterday, that starting from shloka number 48. Just present that. All right. So, okay. So this shloka we looked at yesterday. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samobhutva samatvam yoga ucchyate. So it was mentioned there that samatvam is that yoga, that what is called as yoga is called, he says, it's samatvam. And this we looked at yesterday in our manana. How do we come to this stage of samatvam? Samatvam is basically, that shloka which was mentioned before also. The meaning of this shloka: established in that yoga, perform your duties or action, abandoning attachment. Mostly attachment is one of the strongest deterrent for samatva. And of course, aversion also. We have two notions strongly with us. One is a sense of attachment, which takes us to all actions. Another is aversion. We run away from things which it is unpleasant. People who we don't feel comfortable with. There's a natural impulse. And remaining stable in both success, failure, positive, negative aspects of life. That is one of the essential teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So here we looked at this yesterday as manana. How do we do manana in this is, working mostly without results. Not having specific expectations of specific results. So there is it's a common notion that all of us have. We do want to work because of results. The expectations of result is one of the strong factors which drives all our actions. And yet, having results as the main aspect in our life is again, a deterrent in our life's journey. So it doesn't allow us to do our actions properly. Our duties, we are not able to fulfill our duties properly. And this we looked at, and how we do mananam on this, where we actually start with firstly training the mind to do the opposite, where in our interactions, where we are expecting things from others, we learn to give without expecting anything back. That is this is, of course, we have to start at a small level and where we are comfortable with. And so that has an inspiration. What is the how do we achieve this even-mindedness is purifying the mind of all expectations, maintaining the state of even-mindedness, purifying the mind of all expectations, and remaining stable in success and failure. And such even-mindedness is yoga. Bhagavad Gita's definition of yoga is even-mindedness, equanimity. Like there are so many differences of different definitions of yoga. So the Bhagavad Gita definition here is that. So there is this we, briefly yesterday we were discussing that when we say not having expectations at the transactional level, we cannot relinquish expectations. It is natural that if you are going to a shop and you give them money to buy things, you do expect them to give you whatever product you want. So then it is not that kind of expectations we are saying that is a deterrent to yoga. What is the expectations that we have to let go is that kind of emotional expectations, that holding on conscious constantly to that this happened, this didn't happen, this had to happen. So we can modify our life with people according to how they respond. So there's nothing wrong with that. That is a transactional thing. How much we can expect from others, how much, where they are in their life. But if we kind of say that this is how they are always, then we don't give scope for their growth also. So that flexibility in our own kind of inner attitude will help others to grow, and it will also give us a sense of freedom. So that is the main point in that when we say Samatvam Yoga Ucchyate, the transactional expectations it's okay to have, but the emotional expectations is what Gita is saying will kind of bind us. Okay, then we'll take up these two slokas, 52 and 53. Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shutasya cha. Then the next one. Shruti vipratipannate yada styasyasya. Shruti vipratipannate yada stasyati nischala samadhavachala buddhis tada yogamavapsyasi. So the here it's saying the mind that is deluded, that avarana, that moha, that is the reason why we are stuck in this samsara. When one's intellect goes beyond this delusion, then the person reaches a state where he understands the things heard and those yet to be heard. And similarly, the next shloka, when your mind will no longer be distracted by the conflicting teachings of the Vedas, when it stands firm and steady in deep meditation, then you will attain yoga. So this again is reflecting to different levels of teachings given in the Vedas, Upanishads, for different people who have different qualifications. We looked at this yesterday. What is dharma for one person may be adharma for another person. So understanding that, resolving that, then we have clarity on what is my path. So that is where, we say that the Shastra and the Guru Sampradaya is what will help us. So how do we contemplate on this? How can we do Mananam on this? So the first thing is to ask ourselves, has my mind achieved a certain degree of steadiness on the path of yoga, meaning sadhana, any sadhana we are on? Has the mind achieved a certain strength of steadiness, meaning am I clear on the path? At least we should have clarity of the vision where that path is taking us, what it is about. If I'm still confused, then of course I have to work towards the clarity. And what is the means to that clarity? So we have to look into ourselves. When I have doubts, what do I seek? These days there are a lot of teachings. There are a lot of teachings available online, offline, everything, right? So what is my kind of a go-to means? Where do I go to clarify this? How do I seek to? Am I just hoping that I click on something and then that will give me an answer? So that is many kind of notions sometimes people have. When we come to a path, we should seek one reliable source, the scriptures or the teacher, on both ideally, a combination of both. But if you're going everywhere and looking for that, then every kind of thing will give us more of confusion. So that is why sometimes, until we are settled on that, we should seek that one source. But that source should again be a well-defined, it should be an all-comprehensive source. If it is just a source of thing like, one person's wisdom, then that is still going to be intellect. They are limited in their knowledge and in their means. They'll say, somebody says, just by doing yoga, everything will, like Hatha Yoga. You can keep doing yoga, everything will become okay. So that is, we have so many aspects to us, right? So just one technique or one approach will not solve everything. So that is why we seek from different people. But yet, as we come on the path and as we move, we have to ask these questions or again and again. Is my source of knowledge comprehensive, and am I committed to going deep into that? So that is where, that what is the primary source that we seek refuge in? So that is a good question to ask. And then there is a sense of attunement you build with that, whether it is that kind of that teaching or the teacher, and they say these days, communication or teaching doesn't happen just by words, by listening to words. That teacher, their style of communication, everything is also communicating to us. So that different ways, different levels of teachings, as we become more competent on the path, and we start tuning into all these levels, different levels of teachings we are able to tune into. So this is a very good inspiration to reflect on. The purpose of teacher and scriptures is to shake us out of delusion. So why we are seeking these teachings is because we don't even know we are deluded. We are happy fighting the battles of life without even knowing that there is a deep avidya, that deep ajnana, which is the cause of all our problems. So the confusions and challenges as we come on the spiritual path is also somewhat natural. Because we are letting go of our worldly thinking patterns when we come to that spiritual path of seeking higher reality. The world has taught us a lot of things for us to become operational, right? And slowly we are now letting go of those thinking thing and patterns, and we are seeking a higher pattern. But as we progress through the support of especially the Shastra, Guru, Sampradaya, then slowly we start getting clarity on the path. So this is how that clarity comes to, and getting clarity is what makes one a higher evolved spiritually than others. One who is little advanced on the path has greater clarity. At least they have clarity on the vision. So the life may go up and down. Their life may also be going up and down. But they have very clear understanding. This is the goal I'm seeking. This is the path I'm walking. Okay, and this is the inspiration. The purpose of the teacher and scripture is to shake us out of delusion. Confusions and challenges are part of the spiritual journey as we let go of our worldly thinking patterns and seek refuge in that higher reality. As we thus progress, we begin to gain clarity on the path. So the confusions and challenges are part of spiritual journey also. When we come on the spiritual path, sometimes we feel like the worldly path was better. Why am I seeking this? Why am I wasting time, especially morning, attending these things? I could have been watching some TV and much more happy, But then again, we know why we came, because that was not giving us happiness. That was not giving us that fulfillment. So, but as we go through this, how do we navigate this? So that what they call, the navigation map. How do we navigate through this is we use the support of these scriptures such as Bhagavad Gita, which we are all now doing. The Bhagavad Gita is all comprehensive. It gives us guidance on how to lead the worldly life and the spiritual life, both. That dharma and moksha, that it is not just for what is right and wrong. It is both dharma and salvation, ultimate happiness. Okay. All right. So we'll go to the next one. So now this begins a very important phase where Arjuna is asking, what is how do we identify somebody who has reached there so that we can have proper goal, proper vision. Arjuna uvacha Stitaprajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava stithadhi kim prabhasheta kimasita prajeta kim. So Arjuna is asking, what are the characteristics of a person who is steady in wisdom? Sthita prajna, meaning he's not deluded on the goal of life, the vision of life. And how does such a person speak, sit, and walk? So meaning like he's not always in meditation, right? He's active. The person is active in the day, engaged in activities. But what are the lakshanas? What are the signs, characteristics? So how can we contemplate on this? How can we take this deeply? The first thing is to ask ourselves, what do I understand by realization? There are so many people, so many books have been written on so many gurus, and each are in a different state. So there are different degrees of realization, especially the Yoga Vasistra. It outlines, 7 stages, of which the last 4 stages are different stages of realizations of different gurus. So what is it that I'm really aspiring for, so that I have proper understanding on this? And then for ourselves, we have to ask, what is the next stage in my own evolution? Where am I and where do I have to go next? So once we understand these stages, it's a map for us, because I cannot, like, from, if I'm right now here somewhere in in Himalayas or in Bangalore, if I want to go to Rishikesh, back to Rishikesh, so I cannot go overnight, right? I can go overnight, but I cannot just jump from here to there. So where am I? What is my next stage? What is my next stop? I have to go to Delhi, or I have to go somewhere. So those are the things we have to understand. What stage can I aspire for? From where I am, where do I go? Is my understanding of ultimate liberation and freedom motivating me to make mental and spiritual progress in my life? So this is sometimes a common challenge for many sadhakas. They say that, okay, that moksha is so far, I will be happy just being free of my problems today, So, but that clear understanding is that happiness, that purnatva is right here, right now. It is not like a goal that, of course, there is a goal we are also looking at. But that knowledge should be such that we should have that immediate sense of freedom. We should understand the true nature of our consciousness. Okay, and then as an inspiration, like, every field, we are motivated by those who are successful. That's why we are looking up to them. The saints and sages who have attained that stage, we have to understand that sometimes what happens is, from looking at people outwardly, we may become judgmental. So having proper understanding, it requires knowing them in an internal level, or else outwardly we may judge them, or we may see like, okay, they are also having some issues, some problem, they're having to go to doctor, or so those kind of limited understanding of looking at outwardly, that causes us to have an improper understanding. So having that proper understanding requires us to understand these inner states of the people. And that is very hard to judge from outwardly. When we grow inwardly, then only we can really say that this saint is a realized person or not. So again, so that is the, now let us see one of the points that Bhagavan says is that this is a very deep answer he gives right away, and then he gives a compromised answer. The first one is that Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atman yevatmana tushtaha stitaprajnastad Ucchyate. So the first answer Bhagavan gives is at a very high level. What is he says? When a man completely abandons all desires and finds satisfaction within oneself, then he is considered to be of steady wisdom. Stitaprajna. So Stitaprajna means it's not just like an intellectual wisdom state. I have understood this. It is being established in that understanding that their whole perspective of life has changed. What they see, how they see life, everything has changed. They don't look at life the normal person looks. And they're established in that. And of course, here he gives this highest realization state where they don't have any desires. Everything is accomplished because they are happy within themselves. Atmanyev atmana tushtaha. That is a very important state of realization. How do we contemplate on that? So we can just, that we have to first ask, what are my lower desires in life that keeps me from making spiritual progress? So sometimes, we don't progress because we are like wanting to keep one leg in each boat, right? Which to some extent, from a material life, we have to balance. We have to find that balance. But inwardly, we still hanker for those things. So that kind of that becomes like a habit. So we have to, has everything in life. If you want to get something in life, you have to let go of something, right? So that each person, according to our capacity, we have to let go of something. In order to come attend this Manana session, you had to let go of something else you would have done otherwise, right? So that only is the way we can progress, when we learn to let go of something. And the most important question to do Manana is this. What does it mean to really find happiness and satisfaction in one's own self, meaning one's own consciousness, Atma? And how does it look like? This is where, many times we are deluded because we don't really understand what does it mean to be happy within ourselves. And that complete happiness that we're really seeking is within ourselves. This point is where, we have to really inquire, understand. It is not something that if I say this is what Shastra says is inner happiness, we all have to understand ourselves. We all have to inquire, seek within ourselves to really see what this means for me. So a true yogi or a realized person is one who is not dependent on someone or something to make them happy. This is the nature of what we call as Purusha. It is Swatantra, it is independent. It is not dependent on anyone, anything. Worldly dependence might be there, like why a yogi or a thing might go eat food. He's dependent on some food, or he's dependent on the air, if not anything, the air for oxygen. So those are all natural worldly dependence. But mental dependence, inner dependence, they're okay being with themselves. Finding that how that fulfillment, that mantra we say at the end, Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. From that completeness arises that deep everything, and in that completeness, that everything abides. Okay, so we'll just do this one more mantra. This is a working with the desires, especially at the sensual level, that senses level. So this is a very good illustration. Bhagavan says, Yada samharati chayam kurmonga niva sarvashaha indriyan indriyarthebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. So here example he gives is like a tortoise which withdraws its limbs from all sides. This person withdraws his senses from sense objects. That person, his wisdom is firmly established, meaning he's not led by senses. He's not driven astray by senses. Just like how a tortoise withdraws its limbs whenever it sees some danger or something. We are also able to withdraw and go within. Right? This is a yogic kind of thing. When we sit in meditation, something. Outward things, outward objects, the mind is constantly involved with, right? So this is called the process of shamadhama uparati, the stages of sense control, mind control, and absorption. So this, we have to ask ourselves as we progress, how much sense control do I have? Am I too caught up with the sensual pleasures? And most importantly, is there awareness? Like something comes to my mind as an external trigger, and that draws my senses, right? Like if we are sitting here and then some movie is going on in your house, somewhere other room, if that draws your attention outward, that is one level. And the other level is the inner triggers. Our own thoughts and memories will draw us to seek those objects. So we are trying to cultivate awareness at both levels, that external triggers that comes in our lives and that internal triggers that drive us to seek those objects. And so then what level we have attempted with. So these are where, our daily battles of life are right here. Right? Those objects, that things are constantly, and this battle is always every day going on, right? We decide, we resolve to do something, and again that battle will come. We get drawn with that. And how do we develop this? How do we develop this thing? So there, for inspiration, we have to contemplate on this. So it takes conscious training. There is no kind of shortcut ways out of that. Every day we have to win that battle. You win today's battle, then tomorrow's battle is easier. So it's a conscious training because the senses are going outward, So merely wishing, so many times people say, I've now heard the Bhagavad Gita, why is it I'm still having temptations? It should all have gone away, right? So this is where, we have to engage in it's where we have to work on. This is also, there's work involved. Mere wishing but that knowledge has that power though. It is not like that knowledge will not do anything. That clear knowledge will help us to make the priorities clear. When we have clear understanding, that knowledge is that strength, it is that force which will direct our actions. But we have to take steps. So the steps have to be incremental steps. That kshanai uparamai, in Bhagavan says, especially when we do meditation. Slowly, steadily, one by one, day by day, we have to make that progress. So sometimes progress does take time. So progress takes time, but knowledge is instantaneous. That knowledge doesn't take time. You get that knowledge and you are convinced about it, you're stabilized in that. But that outward progress will take time. Okay, so we will leave it, I think, until here for today. Okay, so the stage thing of Stitaprajna, there are other mantras also there, which I didn't cover because that point was covered before, where it was said that Dukkeshu Anudhigna Mana, one who is able to control, who rises about happiness and unhappiness. So those are also important mantras, but since some of those points were covered before, I didn't do the mananam of that. So we'll just stay closing prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Narayanaya.